Alex O'Connor has decided to back out of a debate with apologist Dr. David Wood over the subject of Jesus' divinity. Now, this debate would have been fascinating because Alex O'Connor has the very flawed and mistaken idea that from the scripture you cannot prove that Jesus ever claimed to be God.
Before Abraham was born, I am.
This is why I was really highly looking forward to this, not only because I think that this is an easy debate for Christians, but also because David Wood is a different kind of apologist, and I would have loved to see him go toe-to-toe with Alex, but unfortunately this debate will never take place, and perhaps maybe any debate like this won't either. But here is why Alex has officially said that he is not going to debate David Wood. And this is from modern-day debaters. They've said that due to concerns over Islamic extremism potentially threatening the safety of our upcoming DebateCon 5 conference, Alex O'Connor has decided not to attend. After careful consideration, I have decided that the DebateCon 5 event will continue as planned. Islamic extremists will not stop this event from happening. We will have armed security on the premises at all times. They will not hesitate to swiftly handle any potential threats. Shortly, I will announce David Wood's new opponent. DebateCon 5 is still on February 15th in Newark, New Jersey. Now, color me a little bit skeptical on this one. Sure, this debate might be in the crosshairs of Islamic terrorists, but not really sure DebateCon 5 is really on the roster. And I have seen an overwhelming silence from Alex O'Connor on the issue of Islam in the past. So it's possible that he could be just deeply afraid because he's a high-profile character and maybe he has threats that we just don't realize. But rather, I think that he is not afraid necessarily of this event, but afraid of David Wood. Now, make no mistake, David Wood, although bearded, is not a Muslim. Although I do think he would look good in a hijab. But David Wood is a different kind of apologist and not one that Alex O'Connor has really ever faced off with before in the past. Now, I know what you may be saying. Well, he's faced off with all sorts of people, and in fact, he's faced off with the darling William Lane Craig. Now, I am a Craig fan, to be sure, and I've learned a lot from him. But William Lane Craig is kind of the old guard in terms of apologist. He was fantastic at defending the Christian faith, but not so great at really going for the jugular when it came to the worldview of atheists. And that's why William Lane Craig, for many atheists, was kind of safe territory. David Wood is a completely different story.
So why am I going to give you an argument for the existence of God when all you're going to do is play skeptic? And I can do that too. And if I play skeptic like you do, you can't even prove to me that you exist.
And make no mistake, David Wood is not concerned whatsoever with merely defending his position, but he will go after the position of Alex O'Connor. And I think somewhere deep down, atheists understand that their worldview cannot hold up to scrutiny. That's why the vast majority of them have to come in presuppositionally and say things like, well, obviously my worldview is scientific and totally within the realm of reason, but you Christians, you believe in sky daddies and fairy tales. By the way, if you use the word sky daddy in relation to Christianity, you are not a serious person. There's no accounting for the fact that atheists, and let me be a little bit more careful because I know the atheist out there will say, well, atheism really isn't a worldview. And of course, it absolutely 100% is, and it comes with a whole bunch of presuppositions. But the naturalist out there who believes that science can account for the origin of life and the origin of the universe is perfectly within the realm of fiction because they can't. They believe in primordial oozes and fish-like creatures popping out of these oozes and all of a sudden evolution happening in such a way that moral agents are produced from a non-intelligent process. Now, if that's not enough for you, they have no understanding of how the universe came into existence in the first place. Besides, where did that primordial ooze actually originate from?
It could come about in the following way. Some earlier time, somewhere in the universe, a civilization evolved by probably some kind of Darwinian means to a very, very high level of technology.
They don't know. The point is that they do not have a causal agent for any of their beliefs when it comes to the origin of life and the origin of the universe, but Christians actually do. Now, you may not believe in that God, but at least he is a God capable of doing the kind of things that we say he is doing. Whereas the scientific naturalist, the secularist, the atheist, they have no logical explanation for any of that. So why should Christians sit back and allow these people to pontificate as though their worldview had anything of value to offer to anybody? It is perfectly inane. People like David Wood now have emerged on the scene, and they go on the offensive rather than purely defending the Christian faith. And for that, I am grateful. And I think that no debate like this has ever taken place with Alex O'Connor, and I bet you it never will. Secondly, I think this is the reason Alex O'Connor is loath to debate David Wood. I think atheists are essentially only disgruntled cultural Christians. I mean, you can hear Dawkins essentially agree to this here.
Well, I must say I was slightly horrified to hear that Ramadan is being promoted instead. I do think that we are culturally a Christian country. I call myself a cultural Christian.
I hope that simple clip can serve as a reminder to you that underneath all of the arguments of atheism is really just a hatred specifically for Christianity. Maybe because they got hurt by the church, or maybe because they're not allowed to pursue their hedonistic lifestyle under a Christian worldview, and that Christianity has restrained those hedonistic passions and lusts for much of the Western world where Christianity still has an influence. And maybe they despise that because that's really what they're after at the end of the day. I can tell you this much. Richard Dawkins is an individual who is disgruntled against Christianity because of something that happened earlier in his life. Very few people know that Richard Dawkins was molested at a Christian school when he was a young boy. So I get it. He's angry, and he's taking it out on Christians in the present because he thinks that based upon what happened to him in the past, Christianity can't possibly be true. But underneath that is something that Christians should never forget, that the atheist purely has an emotional argument. What atheists largely do in a debate is they gish gallop and they come up with red herrings, and they make Christians purely defend themselves. They want to talk about the virgin birth. They want to talk about inconsistencies in the resurrection narrative. They want to talk about Noah's Ark, and then they want to talk about where Cain and Abel's wives came from, and they want to bring up endless amounts of arguments that the Christian has to constantly try to weed through, and many of them you can't do that quickly, rather than to defend anything that they have to offer, because somewhere deep down they know that they really can't allow scrutiny to come anywhere near their doorstep, because they won't be able to withstand it. This is reason enough to suggest that really underneath much of what atheists do is an emotional argument that makes them purely want to focus on Christianity, and this is why they are loath to actually talk about Islam. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, even if it were true that Alex is deeply afraid of Muslims and what they might do at this debate, this is no way for a supposedly intellectually honest and brave individual to act. We all know that bullies thrive upon threats of violence and fear. And if you want Muslims to continue to manipulate the rest of the world as they have England, Alex, then keep up. Only attack Christians, do their bidding for them, and never actually stand up to them. But I desire a better world than that, and I think most atheists would agree to this too. Western civilization was colonized by Christian ideas, and the world is better for it. Should you want to see the rest of the world become like England, I mean, this is a great recipe for that. But my real message here is not to Alex O'Connor and to atheists, but my real message is to Christians. There's a liberal and even progressive tactic out there to push where there's mush. This is why the Christian faith has become the whipping boy of atheists for far too long. So it's time for Christians to take 1 Peter seriously and to defend the faith. Yes, do so not as the Muslim would with threats of violence and fear, but do so whimsically, lovingly, and gently, but defend it nonetheless. And more importantly, defend it by making your opponent defend themselves. Go on the offensive. The atheist enters most debates thinking that he has a position of neutrality, or that he is totally impartial, and that he purely bases all of his reasoning on facts. That is nothing but hogwash, and that's the PG version, by the way. They do not base their ideas purely upon evidence. They base their ideas upon dogma, much like the Christian does. So in a debate where everybody's Bible is open and we're all using dogmas and presuppositions, call me a Christian, but I'm going to go with the Holy Bible and suggest that that book that has endured through millennia has endured incredible scrutiny by the atheist and the skeptic and even those outside the faith within other religious circles. I'm going to go with that book, and I'm going to stand up for it and declare it boldly. And everybody who agrees with me should do the same. It's time for us to not only defend the faith, but to go on the offensive and make others defend their worldview. I can't help but believe that David Wood would make Alex O'Connor do exactly that, and that's why this debate is not going to take place. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if this video was helpful to you, make sure to surround yourself with great Christian resources and exclusive content from Indie Thinker by going to indiethinker.org/support. Don't forget to check out the sponsors of this show, and most importantly, go with God.